Hi, folks. Welcome to the latest episode of the On the Head podcast. We're joined by the first citizen of Belfast, Danny Baker. Danny, welcome from myself and Vincent Scott. How's it going, mate?
All good. Thanks for having me. Hope you're keeping well.
Yes, mate, not too bad. How have you been coping in lockdown then?
Aye, ticking along. The very beginning of it was very busy, especially within the role that we're doing. There was a lot of uncertainty for people, whether it was small businesses or just community stuff that was going on. So a lot of that kept me busy the first load of weeks. But as it moved on, you had to adapt yourself as in the own family and as myself and my own mental health as well. You have to adapt it. And yes, it's definitely difficult, but for the greater good.
Yeah, we've seen you've been doing a lot in the community in terms of, the grocery deliveries and whatever.
Yeah.
You're like a Sainsbury's delivery man now, are you?
Well, it's scary. When this all happened, you really realize how close to the wire you can be. You can be only like one paycheck away from not being able to put food on the table, or especially people who were self-employed. There was a lot of people who would have been isolating at the very beginning who had COVID-19 or had fears of having it and actually couldn't get out and about. So they were relying heavily on us. And at the very beginning, we found it was right across the spectrum, not just the vulnerable within our society, but also people who you wouldn't normally regard as that. You were relying on that help. And it was great to be able to help. But you really seen that real camaraderie of the community pulling together. It was much more than just us as political representatives or Sinn Féin activists in the community. Football groups, community groups, just local people, everyone pulled together, and it was great to be a part of it. And it just shows that when the going gets tough, people do stand up. So it was good to be a part of it.
How has the relationship between the parties been during COVID? Have you been closer than normal? Not to get into politics right away, but have you been?
I suppose for me, when I took on that role as the mayor, I wanted to be a mayor for everybody, and I would try my best to have a relationship with as many political parties or people right across the city. I think when COVID happened, if you're being honest, we went sort of back into our own constituencies. So my constituency is very heavy with Sinn Féin. We have a big, strong mandate in the Callan area. So we're really working together within all the areas and covering bases. But I do know if you watch right across social media, you can see parties right across the board helping out in their various DEAs, which is fantastic to see, because that's what really matters. It comes down to people helping people at the end of the day. Politics doesn't matter when lives are on the line.
Definitely. Just before I forget, actually, Danny, I was informed the other day my auntie suffers from she's Down syndrome, and the Shinners had been delivering food parcels round to her house and her door. So I just want to, obviously, on the behalf of my family, thank Sinn Féin for that. And also, where does the likes of Sinn Féin and the other parties get their information from to know that there is vulnerable people out there? Because I have an elderly neighbour myself, and I was knocking the door, listen, do you need anything? Do you have any way of sort of finding that out, who's in need? Or
well, what we've done at the very beginning, and I'll give a lot of credit to our activists, once it really had started, before really any guidelines were out there, our activists were knocking on the doors of our vulnerable. We would know maybe the bungalows who wouldn't have access to social media. We're knocking on the doors at the very beginning and saying, listen, calling out the number. Even social distancing practicing was right in safety at the very beginning of it, which was great to see that they were this is our number, write it down. And then we came up with the idea of let's put billboards up, like almost like election time when you see that some of the posters come up. So we have them in our local areas. Some of the ones that be like a small poster, and then you have the big posters. And I don't know if you remember way back at the start of it, there was one political party that caused a bit of a stir about one of our posters being up that had that information. But what we really wanted to do that was that people
hold
know what
on,
our
names,
office
for
number
God's
is.
sake, name names.
No, you don't have to Google it. Any names. It's done and dusted with. But we put an emergency number on it as well. So you have our advice workers that were answering the calls day in, day out through all this with our offices closed. We're dealing with all sorts of issues that were coming their way, but we also set up emergency numbers that people could ring and say, listen, my wee neighbour, or I can't get out, could you help? And also you had the agencies of Belfast City Council working in conjunction with the Department for Communities. And I have to say, I think we were very lucky to have a minister in that department, that was Dergy Hargy, someone who just knows ground community politics down to a T, and what she's done was absolutely amazing. That was what she had put into place, allowed us to do what we done to help, and it's been fantastic to see all that different levels of governance work as well.
Did I hear somewhere that you're a Liverpool fan?
Huge Liverpool fan. I'll tell you the wee story. I actually have it saved on my phone about, was it back in, I'm trying to think of the date of it. It may have been around the end of February. City Hall was lit up red and teal for stuff, and I think it may have been one of the schools, St. John Paul II. I can't really remember what it was for, and I knew it was getting lit up red and teal. So I run around to the Liverpool shop and I had the retro gear, and I got the red teal slip up, put the chain on, went outside, done the whole congratulations Liverpool and all that there, and all. I think still sitting on my phone and never going to be able to send it.
You should send it.
If me and Vincent had knew you were a Liverpool supporter, you wouldn't have been on. What do you think is going to happen with the football end? Do you think we're like, say, even the Irish League is going to back up and run, even in this country, on a smaller scale, you know?
I don't know. I've actually tweeted about this last week. Huge Liverpool fan, but I don't feel the need for it right now. You know, Liverpool's won the league. There's better ways of working this out. There's more important things that need to be sorted out first and foremost. It's not at the forefront of my mind. I know sport's so important, but when it comes to what we're at right now, I don't know. I really don't.
See, I would have this argument with my wife a lot, and she would say, like, what is the importance of you playing football again or watching football again? But in life, if all you had was just going to work and coming home, if you didn't have, for talk's sake, music, if you didn't have football, if you didn't have Gaelic football, hurling, or any other sport, what would life be? So there is an importance to people, even for their own mental health, that the football is up and running again. So it means, like, me and Vincent we help out with taking our local team. So we're not getting together, seeing all the boys having a bit of crack, you know, doing a few laps, joining in, playing a bit of football, you know, that. So we're missing all that there. So that's where I would see the importance. I know, obviously, that there is bigger things to worry about, but eventually, you know, I think there's a time that it needs to be implemented again, safely, obviously.
Yeah, no, 100%. I get that. I see it with my own kids when I go training, or even myself, if I'm being honest, going out and having that human interaction. I'm very much a person who's hands-on. I like to go out and hug and shake people's hands and be around people. Doing online, so my job now has become very much online and phone calls, and it's mentally draining. I would love nothing more than going out and training. And I think it has to come back into our lives at some point. I'm not saying that the conversation's too early for it. I think we should be having the conversations. I just feel when the Premier League can do it, I don't know. I just struggle with when people are still losing their lives every single day. That the primary focus has to be on how we come out of this. Get the numbers right down at the zero. No one should be losing their lives right now. And unfortunately, it's still happening. And I have real fears about complacency setting in. That's my own personal fears. If complacency sets in, all the hard work that's been done over the last 2 months, and you could end up in another surge, and I don't know. I really don't. It's so fluid. But for mental health, you're right. We do need it. We do need it.
Do you think, in terms of seeing another surge coming, if people don't abide by, obviously, the rules are set in place, do you think the government can be more transparent in terms of giving us the right information earlier? Because we're only now starting to get the grips with the number of deaths in, like, old people's homes and stuff. Why is it taking so long to get that kind of information out there? That's maybe why people go, there isn't such a problem here, if you know what I mean. Like, why is the information not released to make people aware as quickly as possible?
Yeah, and that's a question they're going to have to answer down the line. I think that's going to be one of the biggest inquiries when this is all over, of how care homes are treated and how it was reported and the numbers. For me, I think our communities have done absolutely fantastic to this point. It's been hard. It's been 2 months, but people have adhered to it. You know, you're right there, you see the social distancing. You know, I look back, even if I use my own example of St. Patrick's Day, you know, I was the mayor. I remember the meeting. The meeting was a Monday night, and it was actually called about Flybe. I don't know if you remember, but Flybe had lost, you know, was basically going under in the city airport. And we had called that meeting specifically around Flybe, but it was moving that quickly, COVID-19, that I put on the agenda. And I think it was like 5 to 5 and the meeting was at 5:30, and I'm the only one that had that power to do that, and I put it on the agenda to talk about St. Patrick's Day parade and concert. And it transpired that we all came together and made that brave decision because it was against guidelines at that time. I'd spoke to PHA just minutes before I went into the chamber, and as well as they understood where we were coming from, they weren't giving us a green light to say this is medical advice, it used to be cancelling St. Patrick's Day. And then you've seen all of our businesses and schools step forward as well and take their own leadership. You know, we weren't waiting for Boris Johnson, if I'm being honest. He came out on the 24th of March with lockdown. If you think of what happened that week, Liverpool played Atletico Madrid. We had Cheltenham Festival. We had one of the bands playing in Wales. I can't remember who it is, so I don't want to say it in case I get it wrong. But there was a massive band playing on the Sunday night just before that as well. So there was tens of thousands of people were mingling right across Britain. And what ended up being it could have been their start of their surge, because I think if we had St. Patrick's Day, whether it was the parade or the concert, our bars had been filled on St. Patrick's Day, I think our cases would have been through the roof right at the very beginning. I don't think we would have been able to control it at that stage. So I think we've done well, but you're right. If another surge comes, will we be strong enough? I think we will. I have lots of fears about the behaviour of what's happening across the water, and it influences our media stream. We know that it's our TVs, it's all over. You see the behaviour of your man Dominic Cummins over the last couple of days, and even his behaviour tonight, and they're explaining it on boards. It's not good. It's not a good message that we putting out there to the public at all. So I have real fears for them, but we're doing the right thing, and I think across the whole island of Ireland we've done pretty okay in all of this, and just have to keep going.
Just while you mentioned your powers there, Danny, I'm going to be honest with you, dead straight. I don't fully know what the Lord Mayor's job is. Yeah. I don't think I'm ignorant or I'm patronising you. I'm really not. I'm asking you to educate me and maybe Paul and people that are going to listen. What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, the Mayor is very much a civic role. It's the face of Belfast. So really, you get to see all of what's great and going on in the city. You're going out there meeting groups. You have inviting people into the parlour. It's a really great role in that regard, but it does have certain influences more than power. I would say it's like when I came in, I was very unusual because it was the first time in 100 years that the Mayor had changed roles within that one term. So it's a 1 year term for the Mayor. So John Finucane was actually the Mayor of Belfast. He got elected as MP, and then that's him out of the chamber. So the party still had that year to fill. And I actually remember it was dead funny. I had actually planned to say to myself by the end of 2019, it wasn't a great year for me on a personal regard. So I says by the end of the election, I said once that's over, that's me. I'm switching the phone off over Christmas, and I'll be lucky if the CD come February. That's what I had in my head. Liverpool were playing that. I think it was Saturday. Liverpool were playing that Saturday, and it was actually a bit of an early kickoff. And I had that wee cheeky couple of beers that were sitting in the fridge. And I opened, I started drinking them, and there was a knock on the door. And a conversation was had about would I take on the role, and that was it. I took it on. And it's a very busy role, but it's really what you want to make of it yourself and what you want to drive. And I was really driving that, being a youth advocate, and also I was doing my best to promote positive mental health and well-being. And with that role, you were able to invite people into Parliament. And I got to meet some great people who are doing great work on a daily basis across Belfast on suicide prevention. So I learned an awful lot within it. When it came to power, your power really lies within churn and meeting within chamber. So I can put stuff on the agenda, or I can raise stuff. But as far as powers, it doesn't really have a powerful role, but more of an influence. And what I did realize when you put that chain on, people want to know and people want to listen and people want to be invited to the places. So it's a very, very good role and a privilege.
Can you affect legislation at all? Can you implement or?
No.
Vote?
No, a council has no remit either over legislation. A lot of times, like as you're sitting as a councillor, sometimes you can be a wee bit frustrated by motions that are brought forward by different members because it would have nothing to do with the remit of council, but it's more of they can raise awareness or get council to write to a department and ask them to maybe consider an implementation. I suppose that bad habit, I call it a bad habit, that probably gets shouted at by someone for calling it a bad habit. But yeah, I think that bad habit came from Stormont being down at that time. You had 3 years of that void where people wanted to raise issues. So that became a platform. Belfast City Council for a while, it was very much a platform for raising bigger issues. but the best motions are really the motions that have to do with Belfast City Council, what's within our remit, and then what we can do to help people within our communities. Like delivering projects, or some great projects, and one that I was very proud to be involved in was the one up in Lagmore. When I took on the role of a councillor, I took it on because I felt that young people were I'm trying to find the right word, sort of disengaged from community. And there was a real hotspot that we had up in White Rays, which just became, I don't like using the word antisocial, I call it nuisance, just people gathering, just got out of hand. And with a wee bit of hard work with council officers, a bit of a buy-in from other parties, and of course then investment that came through council and the AFC, we ended up getting a 3G pitch with floodlights that's up at the top of Lagmore. It's been a huge success, has been no damage done it, and it's free. I don't know of any pitch, a 3D pitch in Belfast that is absolutely free. You can just walk on it and play football every day of the week, and then the team you can rent it out from 7 o'clock. So local fellas rent it out from 7 o'clock onwards, but the kids have it free every day, every week. It's fantastic, really great.
Danny, I was saying earlier to Vincent that obviously whenever you come in for Finnegan, that your role has obviously been cut short. It's a bit like Igualo's loan deal to Man United. It started all great and then took an abrupt end. So what's your plan? Because obviously you're talking there about implementing great things. Where do you yourself go from here in terms of trying to keep those things pushing through in the community? What will be your next role?
Oh, well, the role of a councillor is still there. Councillor is that role where you can really have that face-to-face interaction with your community. It's the forefront of any of any party, in my view. It's ground level politics, and that's what I'll continue to do, regardless of what the issue is, whether it's a street light being out, or trying to engage with our young people. And it's working with all different agencies to do that, or community groups. And a great example of great work that can be done working with groups is like working with Fela. I've said this a couple of times when I've been at opening events. Like Fela and Fobla will give me that opportunity to reach out to kids who were not a part of youth clubs, who were not really engaged in the community. And when you got to speak to them, they were telling you that nobody cares about us, or we don't feel part of this community. And when we done the dance night, the free tickets, I actually got myself a wee bit of bother with it, because I posted that I was giving them out, and there must have been 2,000 people contacting me for tickets. But it was great, because even though it was a bit of a head melt after that, it was the fact that I could get out there into the hard to reach kids and build up a relationship, and very quickly that brand of what kids get negative press, because we all know that like a negative story goes on Belfast Live, for example, it'll get 2,000 likes and many shares. You put on a positive story about kids saving up money or doing a project to get a new defibrillator in a shop, it doesn't even get half yet. So that sort of stuff and being able to engage is that's what drives me, and it's about making sure that the generations coming behind me get a fair crack at things, because they are being left behind.
Well, that just brings up my next point when you're talking about the generations behind you and maybe the generations to come. It's my belief, my opinion, not speaking for Paul here, that Sinn Féin and potentially the DUP, I don't know about their community, but you benefit an awful lot from people voting for Sinn Féin because either their mummies and daddies did, or that they have a belief that a vote that goes anywhere other than Sinn Féin is basically a vote for the DUP. I'm sure you've heard that.
Oh, yeah. No.
Is that something that you rest on? Sorry, just before to cut you off. Is that something that you rest on, or is it still a fresh push every single election to get out and try and get younger voters to vote for you?
Well, I've always viewed it, and I would say the party views it the same way, that an election's not won the 6 weeks before an election. It's won the days, weeks, months, and years after. My work begins the day after I was elected that last time, and that started by taking the posters off the wall and making sure that all the cable ties came with it. Engagement's key right through, no matter what it is. You have to adapt. My core politics is not just about saying I want a United Ireland and beating the drum. It's not. It's about wanting a society which is fair. I want a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. I want to build a society that's not green and orange, but a rainbow of colours, because that's exactly what our society is, north, south, east, and west. It's about taking back control. Unionists will have a massive say if and when the United Ireland comes. They will have a huge say, because they're a huge part of the population, and they have a huge say in what way they will drive their communities forward. I do think it's easy for some parties and some media outlets to say that this is always green and orange. And I've been hip about myself sometimes when you make comments, it's about green and orange. It's not. I fight for what's right, but I think in my community and in society, I'm putting people first. And I believe right now, North and South, if we work together and pulled our resources, we would live in a better society. And I think this pandemic proves that without using that being political. We have to work on an all-Ireland basis. If we had a free all-Ireland healthcare, pulling our resources, even in sport, imagine if we pulled our resources in soccer, for example, what could we achieve? You see the benefits of it in boxing. You see the benefits in rugby. I see benefits in being an island because I think partition has always failed. Partition was power that was given, that was never earned. And that's my view. But when it comes to the politics and out there, it's not about going to the door and saying, don't be letting lemons in. It's very important that you do let lemons in and you let everybody in, because everyone has to have a say. Because once you take control of power and you silence someone, that's when you know that society's failed.
What do you do? Maybe not in your role because you're sort of limited in how much you can do. What does Sinn Féin do to sort of bridge that gap? Because for me, I'm not the smartest man in the world, but I look at the papers and I read them and whatever. It seems like it's a lot of he said, she said, political point scoring type stuff. And it doesn't, for me, that doesn't ever unite at all.
No, and again, you said it there, it's in media outlets. It depends on what paper you pick up and read. They're trying to sell their papers, or they're trying to sell their online stations. People will have their own agendas. There's many journalists out there who fear that much of United Ireland will always betray stuff in that regard. I think you just have to look at the work that's going on this last couple of weeks in the relationship between Michelle O'Neill and Arlene Foster to say, well, you know what, that's not really true. In a crisis, they are working together. They may have different political opinions and views and stuff, but they have really at this time shown great leadership. So it's one to be proud of. Yes, in recent times that's not been there. I think sometimes fear can drive headlines. I think back to 2017 when Storm came down. The behaviour and some of the remarks were disgusting. Want for a better word, it was bad times, and that's what we need to come away from. We need to be kinder to each other, and you have to do that from the very top. I think a better role models is needed, and I think they've been doing a great job recently, I have to say. And I give out to all ministers. I think a very hard time, a lot of hard work, and I mentioned Dergy Hargey earlier on. The right person to be in that post in that department. That I can't say enough. It was her leadership that allowed us to be able to do what we've done within our communities, and that's what's important about local governance. But again, I do think we could achieve more if we were working on an all-Ireland basis. But that's my view, and I suppose that'll be a view of all Republicans and you ask a unionist and they'll say it's separate, but that doesn't mean you can't work together.
No, you mentioned the media outlets as well. That's interesting because I don't know if you've seen it, we had Jerry Carroll on the other day and we had the same conversation about the media. When you're going in front of the media, you don't really have a remit to explain your ideas fully. Do you think that you would be an advocate of some sort of change in the media outlets so that you can fully explain your ideas? And I'm a believer that conversation brings people together. Sort of open that up more rather than push it away and say, no, you said that, but remember you did this, and sure, RHI, and what can we do to bring everything together?
Well, I suppose that'll be a question for journalists. We have that radio show that I don't listen to every single morning, and see in my belief, would it be as successful if it wasn't on that platform of what he tries to do? Probably not, and I know that, and that's about ratings. The great thing about social media, and one of the positives of that, is you can get your message out. Whatever message you need to get out, you can now get out yourself. That power is now within you, and political parties can do that, and people can make up their own minds. And that goes right across the world. It depends on what, if I look at BBC News, for example, and their handling of the pandemic, it's been shocking. There's been no scrutiny at all of the British government. Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain's doing more scrutiny than any of the outlets. That's absolutely insane. So I would watch Channel 4 when it comes to that sort of stuff, where I want English news, and then across the world I would be looking for different outlets. But I think it's very difficult. It's a minefield. The media is there to protect the establishment, and that's probably the problem what we have right across the world, is that the establishment, the elite, is always protected that small a small minority controls all of us, and I suppose that's when we come into the conversation about mental health and well-being, and why is it not the number one priority? Simply that's a fact that it affects working class people. It's mostly, and it affects working class male men, and again, we're not a priority or high up on their list, and that's one of the reasons why it's under-sourced, and that's across the world. It's not just here.
Yeah. Could you argue that Sinn Féin benefit from the media's protection of the establishment? And that's not what I'm thinking. I'm just asking, devil's advocate.
We're protected by the media. What do you mean? Sorry, I don't know what you mean.
So you were saying that the media, generally, you mentioned the BBC, and they protected the establishment, and their scrutiny isn't great. But there's people out there, not me, but there are people out there that pick up the Irish news and go, Jesus, they're never going to say anything bad about Sinn Féin, or the odd time you'll get something bad about Sinn Féin. But it really doesn't wash. It doesn't get through to the general public because Sinn Féin ratings don't really change.
I think we change and adapt a lot. I suppose it's like anything. You'll always have your preconceived opinions when it comes to politics, and sometimes the hardest thing to do to convince people of, if you have an idea of a political party, is to change it. And the best way to change it is hard work, and that's one of the reasons why I would be as vocal and visible, and I would use my social media to be visible. I believe in engagement. I believe in ground level politics. And I think that's where you change hearts and minds of people to see and get your message across, because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to hard work. It's not a brand. Politics is much more than that, and society needs much more than that. So, yeah, and again, if I'm being brutally honest, I don't pay as much attention anymore to media. I very much concentrate on my own stuff and the party's own stuff, because too much negativity out there. There's no point subject yourself to anymore.
Just before I let Paul talk, sorry, I'm conscious that I'm talking too much. It's one of the things that I do notice about Sinn Féin is that I noticed it even way back when we were doing our A-level politics and stuff. Your party machine and your in terms of the party, not you, your ability to engage sort of volunteers and get them is like something I've never seen before in local politics. It really does amaze me. Is that something that is? It's obviously a core priority for you, but does that come from the top down?
Well, leadership starts from the ground up. For me, that, like you talk about that Sinn Féin, this is what it's always been. It's always been that from where we've came from. You know what our communities were subjected to. We are a big, massive community, working together as activists to empower our community. That's what it's all about. It's about giving that voice to our people, and you know, you can look back West Belfast 20 years ago. Look how much investments came into it in 20 years, and we need to keep doing that right across. You know, we now have massive investment. You know, if you just take from 2015, Belfast City Council alone, hundreds of millions of pounds have been invested in West Belfast, 2 new leisure centres, numerous parks, and that investment will continue to grow. And that's what we're about. It's about growing and making people's lives better. And that's what we've always done. And you see it, the big numbers, but it's activism, and it starts from the ground up rather than coming down. Obviously, you take your leadership, but we are leaders within all of our own communities anyway. I just happen to be the rep, but you know, the guys that are going out with me every day to do A, B, and C, you know, they've been about. They're there for their community, and that's the way they've always been.
Danny, myself and Vincent spoke with Jerry Carroll, and we talked about basically the troubles, what ramifications they had on people's mental health here. So that's sort of the first question I want to ask you in terms of what you think about that. And secondly, if the two big parties in terms of the DUP and the Sinn Féin stop playing political football back and forth, and sat down, as the saying goes, time's money, and actually join in power, because there was a number of years wasted there. Could more be done in terms of bringing forces together for the greater good?
I'll answer the second one first. I think we have a very unique governance here. You know, you have 5 political parties with 5 different ideologies, with very different views on the world, and you know, they're working together within an executive to make these big decisions. So it's not clear cut, and it wasn't clear cut back a couple of years ago when it did disintegrate. Could more be done? I'll go back to my original view. I think more can be done if we were working on an all-island basis, putting people first. You know, as I said, giving people a chance in life, and pulling resources. And that will always be my view on it. It's working now very well, but I think in long term it will never work, because partition has always failed, always. And we will get to that stage when we have that brave conversation of what can be better. And we are having these conversations, but when it gets wider and in the unionist communities, I think it will benefit all of us on so many different levels if we were operating in a united Ireland and putting people first. The first one, the conflict, huge. I don't think it's highlighted enough. The trauma of our past, our intergenerational trauma, that and the DNA of it that's attached to all of us. I grew up in a Republican family. I know very well the trauma that could come with it. I grew up in a house where you had to have bars on the doors and gates on the staircase. So yeah, when I think back to it, it's like a different lifetime to me. I would never want my children to experience anything like what I experienced. And yeah, we all carry that with us. And some people witnessed and maybe were a part of things that would never normally be, only for the circumstances. And that trauma has carried with us. It's one of the reasons, if not probably the driving force, of why Belfast, in particular areas like West and North Belfast, have high suicide rates. I think PTSD is not diagnosed enough within GPs. I think anxiety and stress and all this came with the underlying issues within our society is missed sometimes. And I do think coming out of this, I think the trauma of the past will resurface in a way also from the pandemic we're in now. We're in lockdown. There's going to be people who don't even know they're suffering from PTSD, are going to be having it really tough right now. So yeah, the past has played a huge role in it, and we need a strategy coming out of this through our education systems and through all aspects. We need emotional well-being to be at the very, very, very forefront of what we do going forward.
Yeah,
either of you can correct. 2 seconds. Sorry, Vincent.
Sorry. No, go
either
ahead.
of you, this is an open question to yourself and Vincent, because you would be more in touch with politics myself. But is it now becoming a point where people are starting to become frustrated with the arguments of the DUP and Sinn Féin? And I personally see like an uplift in the Alliance Party, because they seem to be for both sides. And like, even in terms of the question I asked you there, is there anything that we can do and join together? It always seems to come back to either like uniting Ireland. I'm just talking about here and now and the things that people are suffering with now. Is there anything that can be done in that respect, or am I totally out of line saying that?
I think what I mean is about putting resources. It needs investment right now. Money. But let's be honest, our money comes from across the water. There's a black grant. You know, we could talk all day and do great things if we had that ability to have control of what way we spend our money. We don't. You have a grant there, and it's put into the health department, which hasn't got the money to prioritise mental health and well-being. It just doesn't have it. And it's my view that the way forward to really make society work in this country would be United Ireland, and it's not using that United Ireland or that stick to say that's my driving my republicanism. It is my view that dividing such a small island up in half is doing nobody any favours, north and south. But when you have to rely on whatever comes across from Westminster, you're going to be very limited on what you can do, and it will be no fault of any of the political parties. And it is easy, probably, for some smaller parties maybe set back and point to the two big parties. It's not that simple. It's an executive made up of 5 different political parties of ideologies working off a black grant that has been cut ridiculously over the past 10 years of austerity, to the point where it can't cover the bills. We are never going to have a proper crack at tackling mental health if it doesn't get invested in. It needs money. It's simply as that. Before we can go off rent, it's money. There's a lot of great work being done every single day in our communities by long-standing groups, no doubt about it. But if you were to ask Emmons what would they would need in the morning, there would be resources and money. That's how we want to tackle it. And it's not really a DUP, Sinn Féin are not one sitting there saying no, we wouldn't give you it. We would give it, just don't have it.
Danny, am I right in thinking, now I don't know the intricacies of the politics and the political system and the black grant and stuff. Am I right in thinking that Sinn Féin and DUP signed on for the Tory austerity
No,
years back?
No, that would be very simplistic, and it's one of the mantras that came from it was Jerry Carl, People for Profit, did really home in, and that's fine, because when you're in election mode, you do look and you go for that wee spin. The reality of it was that their welfare reform was coming in. They implemented it in Britain, and they wanted to implement it here. And if people think way back then, I don't know if you remember the penalised Stormont. They got hit with over £100 million penalty for not implementing welfare reform. So we had that Fresh Start agreement, which then allowed for, yes, the power was then handed back over to Westminster, but what that allowed was then for Sinn Féin to argue that point for the top-ups. So there would be no bedroom tax. We had the supplements that came with it. Nobody else in all of them, like Scotland, they didn't have that. They didn't have them measures in to protect. That's what Sinn Féin secured, and even now that's been secured again through Dergy Hargey. So no, we didn't support welfare reform, and right now bedroom tax is not here. No matter what way you try and spin it, it didn't come, and people thought that welfare reform we have always been against and always will be.
But we're not just talking about the bedroom tax. Sorry, and I don't want this to become like me getting at you. I'm not. And just for the interesting conversation, just it's alone. What about the damage to the health service and nurses' pay and stuff? They came. I agree, it's not your policy, but it was agreed to that we would implement some of it, and it has damaged our health service, and we're suffering even more now.
No, well,
the crisis.
The problem was you had 10 years of austerity, which was the black grant. Nobody agreed to the black grant being cut. The British government just cut it every single year because of austerity. You didn't agree to it. That just happened. And unfortunately, they did. They attacked the most vulnerable. They attacked the welfare system. They attacked the NHS. That's what they've done. That's what the Tories do. And they've done it for 10 years. And, my first role that I did when I got the chain on, I went up and stood with the nurses on the picket line. I absolutely support them. It should be a fair day pay for fair day's work. It should be safe working conditions. Absolutely. That is not our policy. And unfortunately, because you're working within the remit of Westminster, even though we're devolved, we're still taking whatever they give us. And it is a black grant that continuously gets cut. And unfortunately, how do you split that pie when there's so many different departments that have to get their bit? And there won't be enough and there hasn't been enough for the health service, and there certainly hasn't been enough for mental health. That haven't even scratched the surface, and that's a huge problem that we have. And again, this is why I always go back saying, if we pulled our resources, then I think we could make a better society north and south.
Yeah,
but no, we're against welfare reform. No matter what Jerry made us say it last week, we're against.
No, Jerry didn't say that. Honestly, you watch it. It's live on YouTube. That's just.
No, I'm only teasing.
I'm trying to question you a wee bit.
Yeah, no, I'm only teasing. Take it back if Jerry watches that. Take it back.
My next question was, it's more to do with your role now. I want to get off general politics. I noticed that you're donating like 52,000. I think it works out at like 100,000 all in of your budget, and it's gone to food banks. It's sort of a compliment sandwich here. I really, really love that you're doing that. I wanted to ask more generally about any strategy that Sinn Féin might have that would sort of alleviate the necessity for food banks in the first place.
Oh, there should never be a food bank in society.
100%. And I really love that Sinn Féin and whoever else wants to donate anything to the food banks, because they are needed right now, and it's unfortunate. But what are Sinn Féin going to do more generally to sort of reduce that necessity? You know what I mean? Are we going to try and make work pay, anything like that?
Again, all all of our politics is there. That's what we believe in. Sometimes it's very difficult when you're working within the remit of, I keep saying it, your budget comes from Westminster. There just isn't enough of it. But it shouldn't be happening. There shouldn't be a food bank in any society. And there's nothing more embarrassing when you see, especially MPs across the water, smiling when they're cutting their ribbon to open another food bank. It's absolutely disgusting. And especially now that we're coming through this pandemic, make no mistake, there'll be more food banks right across the island of Ireland and across Britain as well, and in places where people would never believe it would be. As I said at the very start of the programme, we were helping people who were only a couple of weeks out of being self-employed, who then couldn't get out because they were either self-isolated and sick, and they needed our help to put food on the table. That shouldn't be happening in our society at all. And I think Sinn Féin, and I know we're the same thing, of course we are, we're going to work and do everything we can to make it a fair society, and not to harp on about United Ireland, but I do believe if people really engaged in that conversation, we could really pave forward a pathway to a better society. I really do. And just to touch on how that happened with the MERS stuff, when we done that cancelling of St. Patrick's Day, I think it was a Monday, so Tuesday. This is all near enough 10, 13 days before Boris Johnson came out. I called the MERS office in, the staff, and I basically said, that's me done. The chain's getting locked up. I don't want to put anybody in a situation, regardless of being said. I'm following my gut. Clear my diary. I don't think I'll be doing any more engagements, because you could see it coming anyway. But I wasn't taking any chances, and I wasn't waiting a couple of weeks on the likes of Boris Johnson. And when we had the conversations, we had big things coming up. A mayor always has an entertainment budget, so that allows me to invite groups in, and you can entertain with them. Whether it's a health group coming in, or a football club, or a community group, it's wide ranging, and you can really do what you want with it. That's a fantastic budget that was there. So there was still most of that. To be fair to John Finucane, he hadn't really spent too much of it, so he had left me a good whack. So there was good already at, and I asked them to put in an idea. So we had that was in the parlour, and then we had the Lord Mayor's Day, which is every May, and that's a huge tourist attraction day, and has a massive budget within the remit of the Mayor's parlour, and that was another 42 grand, 43 grand that was sitting there. So there was 10 grand from the Mayor's office, and then that came up to about 50,000, and then party group leaders. And again, it just shows parties working together. The party group leaders were in meeting on a regular basis, and they agreed to tap it up to 100,000, and they agreed to give it to them, the food banks, and supported the move that the Mayor's office was wanting to do. And again, it just shows you that the real work that does go on behind the scenes. The parties do work together, and people looking after people. But it's unfortunate that we have food banks, but anywhere I can help and we can help, we do try to do it. But yeah, it shouldn't be a part of our society. No, it shouldn't be part of our society.
And I do think, and we touched on it earlier when I was talking to you, text message or whatever, do you think that we have sort of lost a sense of community? And by that I mean, for talk's sake, obviously you're saying about the food banks, and Vincent's obviously a good friend of mine, not to blow smoke up his hole, but he would spend a lot of his time going down into the town, putting his own hand in his own pocket and supporting homeless people. Do you think we've lost a sense of community, in the sense that everybody always looks to the government for an answer that people can pull together? Do you think that can also help in terms of mental health?
Well, it really lies within government and a system change. The system is stacked up against the most vulnerable. Let's be honest about it. There shouldn't be homelessness either. And we proved that in the first couple of weeks of the COVID stuff. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on all of it, but you just have a general sense of what's going on across the city. And there wasn't people living on the streets. And that quickly happened through the great work that was being done by the groups, and also the support that was happening within Stormont and within the Department of Communities. But that needs to continue. We need to be tackling homelessness. We need to be building more homes. For me, there needs to be more power given to local councils. We should be building houses. We need to be building more social housing. That's a reality of it. There's not, our critical list just keeps going up and up and up. We need to deal with that there. And again, we need to be creating jobs and fair jobs. We need to be getting away from 0-hour contracts. We have to make sure that people get a fair pay for a fair day's work. We shouldn't be going out there. And we've seen it through the pandemic. If anybody was maybe detached from community ideals, you just have to see who was there in the front line first. Our NHS workers, our care workers, our busmen, our taxi men, and all the people in the shops, all serving us. They were risking their lives to make ours better. And we have to reward them. And at the end of this, we all have to work together and set political allegiances aside to make sure that the very first thing that we do is make sure that our society is a far fairer society when we come out of this pandemic.
So in terms of obviously the sum that we're given from Westminster, is the money going to be there to give the nurses and the frontline workers more money? Because personally, I think it's disgusting if they don't get it.
Yeah, I think you need to get a wee MLA on your wee show, maybe over more of the details.
The money has to be found from somewhere, Danny.
Yeah, it does. And I hate even using this. I can't remember who said it. It might have been one of the video shows. It might have been your man. I'm naming him, but saying we can't keep going to Westminster with the begging bowl. It's not a begging bowl. It's our money. It's our taxes that be used and be taken out of our society, brought over there. Then they give us it back in a smaller amount. That's the problem with it. We can't control what our taxes get spent on. We just get this black grant that comes and it has to be divvied up, and you have to then work out how you're going to produce an education system, how you're going to have a health system. Our NHS was on its knees there, and you've seen the great work's being done now, and it's being highlighted. But make no mistake, there's a real crisis bubbling up within the education system. It's well underfunded, and again, who's suffering? It's a working class areas. It's people who need the extra help aren't getting it, and that's what we need to be focusing on, is making sure that more resources do come in. But unfortunately, that's not within our remit. Whether Stormont's all up rosy and everyone's being friendly, it won't matter if the money's not there. So, yeah, we need a system change. We need more coming out of the Black Grant, and if we're not willing to give it, I'll go back to that thing. We need to be having serious conversations right across the island of Ireland, across all political spectrums, to what people view to what possibly a better life could be. Because one thing we haven't talked about, and it's coming down our lane, is Brexit. And just watching the behaviour of Boris and Dominic Cummings. If anybody doesn't think the no deal is on the cards, they're being very, very naive. And I think that's our biggest danger coming down after this pandemic, is a no deal Brexit. It will devastate our economy, devastate it, and it won't care about us. It won't.
You mentioned something there about the working classes suffering, Danny, and I think it's important. I think it's an important distinction, because it's generally the working classes that suffer all around the world, not just in the north of Ireland. Do you think that we should maybe focus then, to bring it back locally, that's something that you and Jerry Carroll would never disagree on?
Yeah.
Do you think that we should change the political discourse to focus on that there's more unites us than divides us? And that goes for me sitting here in Andytown, and the wee Jimmy that's sitting over there in Shankill.
Yeah.
There is, as a human, there is more that unites us than divides us. Do you think that we could get that message out there? I know you're big on positivity. Do you think that you could use your platform to get that message out, as opposed to have a wee dig here and there? And I know it's the game that we're in, but I think that focusing on what unites us is more important than the disagreements.
Oh, absolutely, and I'll be honest. Like, I would very rarely take digs. And I've actually stopped it. When I did do it, I may have been guilty of it on Twitter maybe a year or so ago, a year and a half ago. I've actually stopped quoting people on Twitter, because I'm actually more conscious of being kind and that message I'm trying to send out there. Because sometimes when you quote someone, even if you really disagree with it, listen, I'll use an example of Jerry, since we're talking about. If I quote Jerry used to do it, I stopped doing that, because then I'm just putting a target on his back for people who would have my same opinion to jump on it, and then the trolls jump in on it. Yes, more does unite us as people. When we learn our history, and history is nothing to be afraid of. And I actually used to open a lot of my wee speeches if a youth group came in to see the mayor, or I was going out and give out awards. That's one of the messages I would give, is that once we learn our history, we have more in common, right across the divide. There's a big, massive wall that divides working class areas in West Belfast. There's not a big, massive wall up BT9. It's up BT17, and that's a big problem. And that's one thing maybe we ignore it now, because it's been with us our whole lives. But a big, massive peace wall. It's 100-foot wall in my community that divides me from someone who's the exact same as me on the other side of that wall, fighting for the same resources that we're fighting for. And that's the problem. We, as the working classes or within our communities, are fighting for the same resources. And that's, to me, is a fundamental problem. There's limited resources for us to get, and that's what needs to change.
See, moving forward obviously for Sinn Féin's view of United Ireland, I think to even be anywhere near that, you can't have walls run and dividing communities. Firstly, you need to bring the communities together. Are we anywhere near a time when stuff like that's going to happen, in your view?
I would like to think so. I have great hope for our young people, the ones that I've met, cross community work that's going on. I believe very much the generations coming up, you can see even their different trends and their politics. And I actually really enjoy engaging with ones that are really into their politics, because it isn't very much about the past. It's more about the future of climate. I love talking to them. I love talking to them about the climate and their views on us going forward and how we protect their futures. And again, I touched on it was Brexit. So Brexit and the environment are going to be key going forward. And the politics of the past, those who keep harping on about the past or that's their only politics, are going to be left behind eventually, because people will catch on and go, do you know what? I don't relate to that anymore. We Billy across there's my mate, or we Paddy down the street. We're both brickies looking to just they earn a few quid and get a bit of investment in the Belfast. That's the reality of it. But our young kids, especially my daughter's only 9, nearly for her age, or 9 turning 10. Listen, protect the planet. That's her politics right now. Is all about there's no planet B. What are we going to do? I'm worried about it. And that's where it's heading at. And I think that's great. To me, that's an evolved society right there. But we do need to pull down them walls, because it's only dividing us, and we need to be in it.
100%. And just to bring us sort of back, I know we talked a lot about politics and about this, that, and the other. I'm of the belief that everything that's going on at my front door, it has an impact, either positive or negative, on your mental health.
Yeah.
Without scaremongering, you hear a lot about how we're going to be getting into the worst recession since 1929, maybe worse than anything we've ever seen before. Are Sinn Féin, and not just Sinn Féin, do all the parties need to do something more to protect the mental health services and get us more funding and protect us from what's coming down the line in terms of what may happen?
Yes. We don't know what's going to come down the line. We don't know what type of recession we're going to be hit with. We experienced that in 2008, 2009. I'm very much one of the people still paying the price for it. I'm still in the house that I bought during the peak, and the 2-bedroom house to get me started is now I had to put a dormer on it. I'll be here for probably the rest of my life, but that's fine. It's also, again, coming down to where we're going to be coming out of it and what way the strategies then put together. I said money is needed, but again, it's where you're putting the money and where the strategy is. I would be of the view of someone who grew up in a post-conflict society. I do think that trauma has to play a huge role and identifying PTSD within our community. I think we have to deal with addictions. We have to look at all of it differently. Suicide prevention, the great work that's being done right across every single day, needs more investment as well. And I would like to see a minister for health and well-being. That would be a great ministerial role to have in this country, and someone who's willing to tackle and deal with all aspects of positive mental health. And that's the champion that I always tried to be when I took on that role as the mayor. I really wanted to keep hitting that positive message of being kind. We live in a society now, and I think of our young people, I sort of really feel sorry for them, because there was no social media when I was younger. So every mistake that I made was never recorded. Any fight, God, you had a fight, a scrap in the playground, probably walked out of it and told your mates who you knocked about with in Turnberg, I friggin' knocked him, I done A, B, and C. Probably got your tools kicked in. And, didn't really matter. It's how you betrayed it, and that's how you dealt with it. And my kids have recorded it, and then it's on. Like, how do they deal with that there when it's being shared through WhatsApp? Or someone makes a silly mistake and does something like, not going in, a very explicit videos you see get sent about. I have left WhatsApp groups telling my friends that stop sharing these videos because it's not funny. Think about what is happening to that person's mental health right now and every single person connected to them. Have we all made mistakes in life? Absolutely. How would you like that to be shared continuously? And it's only one click of a button. There's no scrutiny over it. I could go on Facebook now and say something about you, and you know what? I will get 300 shares, because a lie will go around the world twice before the truth even gets its boots on, and that's a massive problem in our society right now. It's social media, us having that discipline as adults and young adults to really stop and put the brakes on. Just because you have a blue tick against your name does not mean that there should be a marker against you that you're free to be absolutely annihilated on social media. It has to stop. We're driving people to early grades. We've seen it happen. And you'll get that wee backlash for about 2 weeks where everyone's all Chinese, and then it's back to that normality of just negativity. It needs to stop. We need a strategy around social media. We need people to be brave. We need people to get up and be an advocate for positive mental health and call things out that aren't right. Even if someone's done something really wrong, do we really need to put it on Facebook? No, we don't. We really, really don't. So all that there has to be looked at as well. And that to me is the biggest fear I have for young people. And then I only joined Instagram recently, a whole new social media platform to me, but I see all the problems with Instagram as well, the filters, how you're looking, what way you're meant to look, what way you're meant to be. And that worries me as well as a father of a young girl. Like, what are we society setting for my child to target? And what does that do to their well-being if they think that they don't look that image or can't afford to be looking that image or wear this or do that? It's very worrying. And I think that is very much a fundamental reason why we see so many young people in despair. It's not all the reasons, but it's one of them. And you add the addictions that we have, you add the post-conflict that we have. There's very much a reason why Belfast does suffer one of the highest rates in the modern world.
Yet we're one of the most underfunded.
And yeah, underfunded, yeah.
Your social media point, sorry, Doc, for cutting you off. Your social media point, I think, is bang on the money. It's, without being dramatic or melodramatic, I think it's a cancer that's sort of tearing apart our kids. It really is, because it's distorting expectations for them. Kids are looking at men going, particularly, isn't it? This is what a man's supposed to look like. Oh wait, I have to have a six-pack, I have to have muscle. And the same for girls, I have to look at it. And it's putting so much pressure that we didn't have on us. And we do need to address that. I really believe that.
Yeah. Oh, the image of it, and then also like the mistake. I hate nothing more. And I've seen a couple of them over the pandemic. You've seen that one up I don't know, where the Fee Day celebration, your woman's had a few 2 liquors in her and whatever she'd done. I think that was wrong to be shared right across Twitter and Facebook and all, because that girl probably woke up the next day and had to deal with all the out there afterwards. You know, it's not fair. She shouldn't be judged. And then the flip at the other side, I seen another video, God knows where it was, of 2 people doing something silly around the back of a bin. Like, that's their lives being ruined because someone recorded that and thought, yeah, I'm going to put that on social media or put it in their WhatsApp group, and it's took off, because WhatsApp's probably more dangerous than the social media sometimes, where people are sharing things that they shouldn't be sharing. And it's something that we can only police that ourselves. We need to be brave enough to say, no, that's wrong. I'm not watching that. I'm not sharing that. We need to stop, because people's well-being. Because there's no point us sitting on one side blaming the government or blaming funding if we're going to be part of the problem. And as I said, the wee changes I can make is within Twitter. I've stopped quoting people and putting a negative thing. Whether it's a political point or not, I've just stopped doing it. I make my point. I don't really name anybody, and just, unless you have to make what you're talking about. But other, like, an attack doesn't happen anymore. And I think that needs to happen more often throughout all the political social media platforms that everybody has. Just be kind. You don't think there's a benefit of it, just don't post it. Don't share it. Click it off.
I think whenever you're negative towards somebody else, that it almost shows you in a bad light. You know, like if you're putting somebody else down, people then look to you as if, like, why is he doing that now? More so than what they would have done before.
Yeah, I suppose when I'm angling at that there, I'm sort of looking at it across a bigger stuff, even like a negative story about young people. Sometimes as a counsellor, you have to put something up there that something's happened and you're appealing for people not to be doing A, B, and C. I hate the comments that I see sometimes. Other people are just so quick to judge, quick to jump in there with, oh, he's a wee scumbag, or the dirty rats. We don't know what the circumstances was leading up there. I don't know what's happening in people's lives that make them want to go out and be involved in whatever they're being involved in. I want to look bigger and beyond that there, and I hate the negative stories. But it's the same as a lie. A negative story will go around the world 2 times over before a positive story even gets its boots on. It's a reality of life. Negativity seems to sell rather than positivity, and we need to change it. We need to be changing that in every aspect we do, whether it's in our sports, whether it's on our social media, whether it's in our school or with our children. We just have to be more positive as well. And it is okay for us to come out and say, no, I'm not saying it's okay not to be okay, but what does that really mean? You know, you grow up and you're a boy and you're meant to suck everything up. Suck it up. Yeah, lad, it's all right. And then don't show your emotions. You know, that's ingrained in us, and that's still there. And that's still, you can see in social media platforms as well. A girl's meant to behave the way a girl's meant to behave. A fella's meant to be whatever a fella's meant to be, a hard man type thing. Emotions, we need to learn how to deal with our emotions and how to express ourselves and be allowed to freely do that as well. So I think there's a whole different way that we need to be doing in our own lives, as well as stuff that needs to be being done up in the hill, like political decisions when it comes to funding, absolutely. But we all have a role to play, and it's far too simple for anybody to turn around and say they're failing up or they can't work or their wages. There's an hour negativity that comes straight with it, blaming someone else for it. We all have a part to play.
I think something that you touched on, and you have touched on it a wee bit the whole way through, is that this idea of having both a big picture of what's going on, like what you were saying there about you don't know what's going on in someone's head or what caused them to do a certain thing. You just have to cut them a wee bit of slack when they do make mistakes, because we're all perfect. I don't know if you know a girl from America, the AOC, Ocasio-Cortez. She's a politician out there, and she has a saying that when it comes to politics, you should think globally but act locally. And I think that what you're doing with Twitter is brilliant. See that refusing to sort of put a target on someone's back and blame someone, that will certainly carry on. People will hear this and they'll go, that guy has a point, and I'm going to maybe try that, sort of paying it forward. I think that if everyone else was doing it, it would be the best thing ever.
Yeah. No, and I'm saying that about quoting, but I'll admit that I did do a couple of tweets about Boris and Dominic Cummings, but I couldn't help myself. That had to cut me a bit of slack on that.
Your truth always comes out in the end, Danny.
Yeah, it does, but it wasn't too bad. I just no, but it is a way of what we have to do things differently. And when we look at social media, I know we touched on some of the stuff, but there's another thing there is within how even social media giants should be policing their own sites as well. Hate crime. People think hate crime within social media or maybe have a perception that it's saying a particular word or saying it in a way. It's not. It's about talking. I give a good example of it. I remember doing a committee meeting in council, and I actually was giving the apologies for it. I wasn't even going to go to it, but there was a big vote, and I had to go down. And I had the 3 kids, and my youngest was just going mental, and I brought him in. I was only really getting in there for that one vote, but it took forever, and the stress and sweat. So come out of it, got a wee picture in the other chamber, a bit of fun, put it on Twitter, and it actually done well. Social media people joking. I think I was in around the end of November. So I took on the role as the mayor in December and done my first meeting, probably January. It was the first full council, so we say January anyway. Done it. And one of the alliance councillors, Kate Nichol, brought her wee newborn baby in. So she's done the full council, had a wee baby, good as gold, put a smile on everybody's face, really class. She put a post up about it, and she got annihilated by trolls on Twitter. Like, I got not one negative message about my kids being in my workplace, and she got annihilated. And I just went, you know what? There's another problem of how people treat women within our society as well, especially those in the political sphere, or even someone who's successful, the hard time that women get. And then we talk about, again, mental health champions, the same people who will probably go on and moan about resources. What are they doing? Who's the ones behind really having that view of a woman can't bring a baby into their thing? It's ridiculous. And what are these big giants doing? What is Facebook and Twitter doing about that? Are they working hard enough to stop it? No, they're not. They're absolutely not. They're not policing their sites. That needs to happen as well. So it's a whole lot of things that need to come into place and make society better for everybody.
It is a fine line. No, I don't want to. Sorry, Paul. I don't want to get back into all the politics, but it's a fine line between policing your site and censorship. If you get me, now no one should get a hard time for having to bring a child to work. In fact, workplaces should be doing more to bring places.
I have no problem with people having a view. I have no incentive. But my problem is that people can hide behind that. No problem if you want to call yourself Billy Bob Thornton on it, but as long as your IP address is locked down to something like, if I want to open a Paddy Power account, I have to prove I'm on the electoral register and where I live, so they know who I am, right? Why can't Facebook and Twitter be like that? That you have one account, and I don't mind what you call yourself or what pitch you put up, but if I read something horrendous about somebody, that there is implications, because they won't do it. They simply won't do it. And hey, and I've made this point numerous times in rooms and different with different people. Like, I had that again as the mayor. You have this opportunity. There was a big event in Belfast City Council with the police and the Justice Minister, and everybody was there. It was the hate crime online, and I was opening it up, and I put that within my wee opening remarks about there has to be a bigger obligation on Twitter and Facebook, and they had representatives there. And someone said to me afterwards, says, that's all right, but what about someone in a country that the only way they can get that information out is to have that anonymity? And I says, me, that doesn't cut it. These people can do a million and one things with technology. They can police this a lot better. Just give accountability. I just don't want someone to be able to hide behind it and send me a hateful comment. And be able just to hide behind that. I think it's wrong. And I'm lucky I don't get much social media hate. I really don't. I'm quite lucky that way. But I see some of the women within my party and other parties get a really hard time. And it's not fair. And female journalists as well. You just have to see it on Twitter. It's horrendous. It's stalking. It's wrong. And again, it's another aspect of people's mental health, how they deal with that, their constant abuse. It's not fair.
See, whenever I was younger, growing up and a teenager, anything you said to anyone, you're always held accountable for. But people are now able to hide behind their comments, which obviously is just the way the world's moving forward. But as you say, something needs to be done, because children are growing up are now going to suffer for that, because their schoolmates or even sometimes their own friends can say whatever they feel like to them. So
yeah, you're right. When we were younger, you got a good dig in the mouth if you overstep with the wrong person.
I was hoping you would say it, Danny. I was hoping you would say it, and that's the way times have moved on. But
I'm the youngest of four brothers, and I had a bit of a lip on me. So yeah, I got a couple of cracks around where you deserve to get a crack. And growing up in the back end of Trimberg, there was always somebody bigger on you anyway. So you always got a good crack, which is, listen, that was a different time as well. But you're right, there was no Facebook, there was no hiding behind it. And I think not even hiding behind it, what happens is that's in more extreme cases where you have people hiding do the hate stuff. But you're right, there's a desensitive aspect of what's going on. So people are very quick. I might know you, Paul, personally, and I might see something that someone said about you. Fintan might pull up something that's come on my timeline, and for whatever reason, I give my 2 bits to it. What do I know about it? I know nothing about it, and I don't know what the implications of my 2 bits can end up being. And that's what we need to be policing ourselves, where we say, no, that's negative. Don't want to see it. I'm a positive person. I'm an advocate of positive mental health. Let me put something nice out here on my Facebook tonight. And I was starting to do that run up the pandemic. It was every Friday I was doing like a picture of the week type thing. I was trying to use my social media to be that positivity. And then Friday, picture of the week, nice wee story, nice wee quote. And I like to see more and more of that through social media. And I like to see more people in positions who people look up to be doing it. As well as people who are just Mr. Joe blogs like myself doing it. So it's great. Has to happen.
See, in terms of talking about positivity, Danny, I'm hoping that you'd be the man to answer us here. Where out there would you say is doing good work in terms of mental health? I'd be a big advocate myself of the Moore and Shane Centre, the Heart Project, because personally they looked after me whenever I first went for initial consultation before being referred on to the NHS for CBT. But where else is there out there for people who maybe are struggling that you know of that are doing good work?
I suppose with Relatives for Justice do a great work, and a lot of people within my circles and dealing with trauma of the past, they do great work. And the role of a mayor, like I'm no expert within the work that was going on within the mental health. Our spokesperson is Arlia Flynn, and she's doing a fantastic work in Stormont. But I got to meet some great people, Mags Walker, Irene Sherry, all them type of people who have been at this game, Philip, all of them. They've been working so hard in suicide prevention. And again, I said it earlier on, if you ask them what they probably need, they need money. They need resources, they need help. And that work's going on. There's loads of Lighthouse, there's loads of different great organisations going on. I don't want to say I'm miss anybody out, but I only got a chance to work with them very recently, and again, I got cut short. I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. I had this plan of really using my term to be that platform for really raising the positive mental health, really pushing the 5 steps of well-being, really wanting to go back to the basics with that. Yeah, loads of great work. It's ongoing every single day, and it's something as a counsellor I want to continue to keep helping within the community, whether it's myself just signposting someone to it, or if anybody wants to reach out and have a conversation with me, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody at any time. I do think the message we should always be giving out is that ourselves, we have to admit sometimes when we're down, it's okay. Like, it is really okay to express your emotions. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to cry. It's okay to love. That is all fine. And sometimes, man, not sometimes, a lot of it, because the statistic that jumped out at me and always scared me, that was 80% of people who are committing suicide rates, I think it was in men, it was 80% weren't known to anybody, hadn't reached out. And that's what scares me an awful lot. How do you tackle that 80%? Even if it was a really big, shiny building, all singing, all dancing, that will cover everything for you at the bottom of my street. Would that impact that 80%? I hope it would. I just don't know. It scares me when I see that statistic, and it's really worrying that people feel like they get to that stage where there's no hope, and the help is out there, and that's not a message that has to go out there. There is help. I know we've been talking about what else needs to be done, but there is help out there, and I think that message needs to be drove home as well. That there is help. If you need it, you can reach out and you will get the help. But we need to do something to tackle that percentage, that high percentage of people who are just not reaching out for whatever reason. They're hitting rock bottom. And we all hit rock bottom, like maybe not rock bottom, but we all have hard times. Like, this pandemic proves it. Anybody that says they're going fine are full of crap. I have felt it through this time. There's been a couple of days where you were just like, oh my God, this is tough. I feel low. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. And it's how we deal with our emotions that I think we have to learn. And I think that has to be a part of how we go forward, how we learn to deal with our emotions, for our young people, people who may be coming from homes that are just difficult things going on, how we can get that support to people, into our schools. Whole wide range, I think, could be done on top of the great work that's being done right now.
Myself and Vincent would both say that exercise is key for us both. So basically, I don't know if you know, but anywhere to win on either leisure centres opening up.
You know what? I'm absolutely gutted, because I was meant to open it. That would have been ready for April. That was on target for early April. So I would have been opening that building. So yeah, that's one of them ones that's going to go down. I'm going to regret never got to do. Leisure centres, this pandemic, as I said at the start, everything's very fluid. It's changing a lot. Can I envisage it soon? I can't. I think leisure centres and stuff like that, and back to like sports, amateur sports, it's going to be one of the last things to return. And maybe it is that we need an alternative now to be looking towards how we promote our activity, positivity through sports, and how we do it in this time until it becomes safe. I just can't see right now the leisure centres opening anytime soon, or fitness. I just can't, because this is very much still on top of us. I'm concerned about the next wave that will be coming, and possibly third and fourth waves. I don't think anybody knows if they're telling the truth. I think if we're trying to be positive about it, you would like to say you'd be aiming towards the end of the year, maybe. But again, that's just me hazarding a guess that everything will be going all okay. But I don't think anybody knows, and I have fears. Next week I've been critical of the British government for opening schools on the 1st of June. That's just next Monday, to see how that pans out. I'm worried about my kids going into school come September, October, whatever way to work it out. But I'm also not just worried about their safety within social distancing. I'm worried about the trauma that will be left behind. I have a real fear about how our kids, especially at that very young age, when we're so influenced on how you become, like, with your peers, like how you interact and how you become that sociable person. We're going to be putting a box around children to say they can't move there, and it really worries me. And I know it's for safety, but that trauma, that I really hope somebody who knows what they're talking about. I know I'm just talking off as a parent with concerns. I'm no expert. I just hope that people who know what they're talking about, know what they dealt with, will have a strategy for young people coming into this, because very, very young kids are going to be very, very confused whether they're starting school or just at the very early ages of school.
I see there you're a big Antrim man as well, Danny. So next difficult question: what's happening with Casement Park?
Listen, Casement Park needs to happen, and needs to happen ASAP. Our clubs, our community needs it. Has to happen. Like, it's simple as that. And it needs to happen. It should be happening. We just have to keep applying all that pressure to make sure Casement's built as soon as possible.
What is the actual hold up? What, for anybody that doesn't really know, I don't really know much about it myself. I just know that I want it built.
The hold up now, really, it really shouldn't be any hold up now. If I'm being honest, the new plans are submitted. I'm not going to sit here and say I've been up to date on the recent stuff, because I've been distracted this last while back. But yeah, no, there should be no real hold up now. It should be happening. It just needs to be done. In my opinion, there's no reason
Yeah,
to hold up
the
now.
money, sir, whatever is it? Yeah,
Should be.
hope so.
Hope so. No, it should be. Listen, Kismet should be happening. There's no question about it. It should. It's the ball should be rolling.
Right, I'm going to see if Venti wants to grill you anymore here before I get on to a couple of light-hearted questions. What do you reckon,
I
Venti?
don't
Is he
think
let
I
off the hook
grilled him
yet?
at all. I don't think I grilled him at all. No,
That was the
absolutely.
hardest one about kids. I'm scared of saying something wrong and get crucified by the
You get off
crowd.
late.
By
Some
the
of the
party, I'm
conversations I
scared
come
because I
in,
got
you
to
get
the
off
info
lately.
wrong.
Go ahead.
It should just
fire
happen
away.
and that's it.
Right, so just to finish up, we usually just do a couple of wee things in terms of relaxation techniques, or so like films, movies,
Right.
sports, music. Run us through what your favourites are.
Oh, right, okay. Starting with
Now
it depends
here,
on your mood.
listen, Donny. Jerry Carroll said Apocalypse Now, but I don't think that would relax you. Like so,
No,
take notes from her.
if we're looking relaxation, definitely not Apocalypse Now.
When the chicks a barley or something on here.
Listen, I'm a real, I'm a real, I'm a weird when it comes to stuff that really, that I watch. I'm like music. I wouldn't like land and like I do a quiz and I'll do the worst round of music. I have the weirdest sense of music. I will listen to anything from any generation and like one song of a band and that would be about it. I've never owned an album in my life. So music, I go from Frank Sinatra all the way to Michael Jackson to hip hop. You know, Tupac was probably one of my favorites growing up. But here, my playlist going for a run would have Whitney Houston and all in it. It's just random.
Oh my!
So music's random with me. And then you'll have probably someone like AC/DC coming right after Whitney Houston singing "I'll Always Love You." So it's a bit crazy. I suppose when it comes to movies, I'm a real gangster lover type. Goodfellas. I know that's not relaxing, but Goodfellas.
Yeah.
All them, Shawshank Redemption, all the classics that you'll know and love. But I'm also a massive Harry Potter fan and Lord of the Rings. Love all my that type of books. That's the first book I ever read was Lord of the Rings, so that's always affiliation and a habit. So that type of stuff, but right up the air gangster type stuff. And I suppose for me, over lockdown and everyone gets jumped in, I haven't watched that madness about the Tiger King or what do you call him. Didn't buy into it, but I did do the Normal People. Have you watched it? That was without doubt the greatest show I've watched in a generation. I'm telling you, that was amazing. So that was
I'm torturing him to watch it. Have you watched it, definitely?
I read the book and didn't love it. So the book's always better.
Well, that's true. The book does be better. So you have no taste at all, Vincent. That was absolutely fantastic.
I was saying to him, hopefully the wife doesn't listen to this bit, but I may or may not have fell in love with your bird out of it.
Oh, that big time. I actually think I fell in love with him as well, to be honest with you. Hey, Timmy, he has brought back the ghillie cap, a gold chain, a pair of tracksuit bottoms. We are all sweet in West Belfast. He brought back that today.
You haven't got that gold chain anymore. You can't run about like Mr. T anymore.
I know, I've had to give myself
another week out of it.
He had. The next time any Irish fella goes to Australia or goes to America and they've watched that, they're going to fall in love with him. Wearing that wee ghillie cap and wee gold chain.
Listen, one last thing before you go. Talk us through S. Barnett.
Oh, right. So, well, obviously, the hair had I couldn't maintain the hair that I had. So, I shaved it and then I went and shaved the kids' heads. But my youngest, he hates it. He's even bad in the barbers and he went into an absolute freak out for me cutting his hair. So, we went for something fun and I done a wee short mohican at the start of it and then both of them bought into it. So, all three of us have mohawks. So I'm really doing it for them and just to keep getting.
Love it.
Is there all rocking it?
I have at 8 a.m. next Monday, and I don't. No one's actually said to me, Donny, you can't wrap in as the mirror, hand over the chain to the new mirror with a full scale mohawk because it needs cut again. I'm just getting bigger, and it's actually you can't see it. I've actually got pink.
You definitely look like Mr. T.
Listen, if you're as big a supporter of the Rainbow City as you say you are, you'll have a mohawk no bar.
Well, 100%. Like I have to say, I'm quite enjoying being that wee bit different with it. But that's how I started was with the kids. It's a bit of fun and it beats. And I'm lucky. And I always tease all my mates. I can shave my head and grow my hair like that there, and I'll always have a big thick curl, and they
You
don't.
could be
So
me.
Unfortunately, we
well,
can't say the same.
and I used to do. I actually a funny story before we go was actually last year. I just teasing one of my mates who losing the service, I'd shave it, and out of badness, I was a councillor at the time, shaved it off, just done it for a laugh, and then about 2 weeks later, not knowing, I never stood in an election before, your poster picture was taken like 6 months before the actual election. So I run about with the skinhead tight, because I put the monkey hat on going to work, so no one really seen it. I got the phone call, will you come down and put on a nice shirt? Your picture's being done, and I went, huh? I'm a freaking number, not the whole. Look like
Was this in
Uncle
around
Fester.
2017? Was this 2017, Donny?
But no, that election was 2019, the council election.
2019? No, because I was saying to Vincent earlier that I seen a video online when you were first elected into council and the hair was all shaved, and then you did it all nice whenever you were Lord Mayor. I says you must get a hairdresser wet road as well.
Oh, I had the hair. I had the hair for my election in May when I think in 2019. I had it back. Probably the poster you might have seen had the shaved head.
Aye.
Because I only got it back a wee tiny bit.
But I was just thinking, I was thinking the hairdresser must have been off. The hairdresser must be off.
I don't know who you were
I
in
think-
2019 or 2017.
2017.
It wasn't me. I
I
won
think-
the council in 2017. Or was it?
Dude, it was
that
up in
that's
it
what
was
you
in
was.
Lagmore
That was me
or
being
Mount Eagles.
yes, and I was co-opted in at that time, so I didn't know I was going to be a councillor. I was asked about a couple of weeks before that as well. So the councillor that was there, he was moving on, and
Yeah.
I had to get a replacement, so I was co-opted in. But that I was on a bit with a skinhead at that time. That's right. Yeah.
There's the makings of a beauty podcast there. Last 2 minutes.
Anyway, Donny, thanks very much for joining us, and hopefully we'll bump into you on the street and we'll get speaking to you properly. Anyway.
Oh, absolutely. We'll look forward to the better days, and then here we'll get round and have a pint and do it properly. Never mind.
Round the PD.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, geez, I can't wait. I can't wait till that day comes. I'll never take a pint of Guinness in the PD for granted ever again.
Well,
Lovely pints.
well, I'll not take 10 of them for granted here.
Cheers, mate.
Listen,
Thank you.
Danny, thank you.
Thanks very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thanks for having me. Take care, boys.
See you in a bit.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.